the Chinese Theatre here. About to go on the VIP tour. I see Jack Nicholson, Jane Fonda, Henry Fonda. Names I don't know, I'd probably have to look up, but Nicolas Cage over there, Eddie Arnold, Red Skeleton, Susan Hayward. Amazing, Steven Spielberg, there's a name. Oh, Eddie Murphy over here. I like that over here they had William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, Forrest Kelly, all Star Trek folks. There's a plaque in there, hard to see in the sunlight. Donald Duck, back in 1984. I would have expected that to be older, actually. Yes, sir.
Right there at that far door.
Thank you. Gentlemen prefer blondes. Saw that movie. Kevin Costner. Tom Hanks over there.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh yeah, Stormtrooper. Hell yeah. Delivers King Kong. COVID stuff.
Nancy, that's all. That's all.
Judy Garland.
You can take photos inside if you like. We just ask that even when you take a picture, just keep your mask on at all times and just try to keep some distance between the different groups. This theater here is 93 years old. May 18th, 1927 is the opening date of the theater. This theater is founded by a man named Sid Grauman, Sidney Patrick Grauman. He was born in Indiana in 1879. He was the son of David and Rosa Grauman. Both of them were entertainers. And they involved Sid in the entertainment business at an early age. So that's why the name Sid is out there in the cement there. They say thank you Sid and good luck Sid and so forth. We're dedicating that to Sid Grauman. 1923, Sid Grauman took a trip to China. His business was building and management of theaters. And his different trips around the world were inspired him to create his different theaters in different styles. He had an Egyptian theater in 1922 that opened. He had the $1 Million Theater in downtown LA in 1918 that was in a Spanish style. And his trip to China in 1923 is what convinced him to create a Chinese theater. This took a year and a half to build and $1.5 million to build. May 18, 1927 it opened with the exhibition of a movie called The King of Kings. You'll see here the lobby. This is meant to look like a Chinese garden. That ceiling up there, it's meant to look like a sky. These red lights hanging down, those are actually incense burners. They'd be pouring out sandalwood incense back in 1927. And the mural on the wall walking into a Chinese garden. Because to Sid Grauman, this is important, that the patron was carried away with the theater itself. This is by the movie being shown. And we'll see also here in the lobby, we have some of these costumes. These relate to the various people who've done some of the film premieres over the years. That right there, a very famous premiere, was The Wizard of Oz, back in 1939. That's Judy Garland as Dorothy. 6 of those outfits were made for Judy Garland. 4 of them survive today in the world. And that's one of them right there. For the premiere of The Wizard of Oz, they rolled out not a red carpet, they rolled out a yellow carpet for it instead, because of the yellow brick road of the film. And many of the small actors who played the Munchkins were here in their costumes, mixing among the stars. In 1939, Judy Garland did her handprints in the cement out there. She actually got cement that dried under her fingernails, and they had to chip all of her fingernails off after that. It was for the premiere of a movie called Babes in Arms. This one over here, another famous thing, is Marilyn Monroe. This is from a movie called Gentlemen Prefer Blondes from 1953. This is made of a gold lamé stretch fabric, so it stretches out to fit the person wearing it. On Marilyn Monroe, it would be exactly form-fitting. And she did the handprints out there back in 1953 for the premiere. She put her earring into the wet cement, behind Marilyn. And it's still out there. After all these many decades, the glass earring of Marilyn Monroe is still out there. It's tinted blonde. Gentlemen prefer blondes. And the handprints themselves are blackened out now from so many people putting their hands in there over many decades. And over this way here, now, a lot of these Star Wars things, these relate to the showing of The Rise of Skywalker. That was one of the last movies that the theater was able to exhibit before the shutdown of last year. And most of these are fan created. This one right here though, this is a more professional kind of thing. This is taken from the molds of the original costume. So it looks pretty much as it would have looked in the movie. And back in 1977, the very first Star Wars movie premiered here. It played here for a year and a half, all the way to 1978.
Nice.
There were so many people through here to see the movie, they actually wore out the carpet. It had been laid down here back in 1927. So this is not the original carpet, it was laid in after the release of Star Wars. And even today, whenever a Star Wars movie will open here, the fans of Star Wars, they'll sleep outside on the concrete for a week in advance to be the first ones to see the film. On the other side, we'll have some other Star Wars things. They're all left over from the Rise of Skywalker. Now again, this is taken from the mold's original costume, and so it does look pretty much sized and looks exactly as it would look in the movie. These other things over here, these are all just fan-created things that they sew together. There's a group of fans, an organization that creates these Star Wars costumes. They bring them here and put these on display whenever they open a Star Wars movie. When they premiered The Force Awakens here in 2014, 2 of the fans of Star Wars, they got married in the costumes of Darth Vader and Princess Leia right in front of the theater. This theater does have a big association with Star Wars. The projector right there, this is from the 1950s and 60s. That's from the days when they would run movies on 35mm reels of film. You would press the button to change between the reels. They don't have to do that anymore. Since the year 1999 upstairs, they've had the digital projector. In the old days, you had to change between the various reels of 35mm film. Now right in here, it's right down here, You'll see this is the main auditorium, and the ceiling in here, this is all hand painted. That's hand painted by artists who were suspended on their backs. Just like the Sistine Chapel in Rome. That center light up there, that'll change color if you look at it long enough. And the centerpiece, the gold thing, is that's made of plaster. That was assembled in 3 pieces and lifted up there to the ceiling. It's meant to look like a sun. And above the screen up there, that's the Chinese Ambassador of Dramatic Arts. That's a sculpture by a man named Moon Quan, who was a film director, a poet, and a sculptor. And the screen, the 3rd largest IMAX screen in this country, and the 5th largest in the world. The largest one in the world is in Australia. The largest one in this country in New York City. They had to dig 30 feet into the basement to put that in there. At one time, everything was sloped on one level. But they replaced the entire floor, replaced the seats, and put everything on a stadium seating arrangement when they put the IMAX in here back in 2013. So the theater actually opened with 2,058 seats, but right now it has 932. They've gone much further back originally because the lobby was smaller and everything was on one level. Now originally they also all had a stage, an organ, and an orchestra pit in front of the theater, in front of the screen as well. Now the pipes for the organ are still on the walls and the ceiling here. The music would come down from the ceiling. And the stage is for what they call the Sid Grauman prologues, live song and dance shows, would go on before the movie. They always tied in some way to the theme of the movie being shown. And those, the stage, the organ, and the orchestra pit were all removed in 1958 as part of an enlargement of the lobby at that, enlargement of the screen at that time. And we'll see in the middle up here on the bottom is the IMAX projector. That's an IMAX dual digital laser projection system.
So dark.
And on the 2 sides of the projector, we'll see the 2 box seats. We have Sid Grauman's seat and the current VIP box seat on the other side. The current VIP box seat has attached to it the TCL lounge, where they have amenities and open bar and so forth. So the special guests, they can enjoy that on nights of premieres. Now everybody just come down here, to these rows down here, just take a seat. Just sort of spread out a little bit. They're going to show you something on the screen about the history of the theater. Just take a seat anywhere you like, just spread out a bit. Right down there.
Hollywood, land of magic, glamour, and make-believe. Home to the studio dream factories. Since the motion picture industry first became the preeminent source of American entertainment in the early 1920s, the Hollywood community has held a mythical spot in the imagination of movie lovers everywhere. Perhaps no place within that community epitomizes Hollywood and all it represents more than the Chinese Theatre. With its ornamental facade and courtyard of famous hand and footprints, the TCL Chinese Theatre is the most visited site in all of Hollywood, attracting an average of 5 million visitors each year. Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz, host of Turner Classic Movies, and I'm going to be your guide for this look at one of the most famous movie palaces in the world. In addition to movies, the theater has also played host to theatrical premieres and assorted red carpet events over the years, including 3 Academy Award ceremonies, and most recently, the AFI Fest as well as the annual TCM Classic Film Festival. You're probably wondering how this magnificent movie palace came into being. The Chinese Theatre was the brainchild of showman Sid Grauman, a show business veteran who began his career in theatrical exhibition in San Francisco, managing several theaters for motion pictures and vaudeville acts. After losing 2 theaters in the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, Grauman relocated to Los Angeles, where he built 2 movie palaces: the $1 Million Theater in downtown LA and the Egyptian Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, currently home to the American Cinematheque. For his third and final venture, Grauman partnered with United Artists founders Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and Charlie Chaplin as co-investors in this lavish movie palace. Construction on the Chinese Theatre began in January 1926 and took nearly a year and a half to complete. The theater had its official opening on the evening of May 18, 1927, with the world premiere of Cecil B. DeMille's epic The King of Kings. Patrons were treated to a live stage show called Glories of the Scriptures, designed by Grauman himself. Plus, there were appearances by nearly every major star in Hollywood, not to mention the film itself, which was accompanied by a Wurlitzer organ and a 65-piece orchestra. Grauman spared no expense in making the Chinese the grandest showplace in Hollywood. At a cost of nearly $1.5 million, roughly equivalent to $30 million today, the theater boasted a one-level seating capacity of 2,058 and a Wurlitzer pipe organ with sound emanating from the auditorium ceiling. Patrons were also treated to extravagant architectural details imported from China. Those 2 lions in front of the theater are from the Ming Dynasty. The lobby is adorned with original works of sculpture by local Chinese artists. And those colorful murals in the lobby were created by artist and actor Key Luke, best known for his role as #1 son in the Charlie Chan films of the 1930s. Probably the most famous aspect of the Chinese is its forecourt, filled with the hand and footprints of stars from the silent era to the present. You might be wondering how this first started. Well, legend has it that Sid Grauman was escorting stars Douglas Fairbanks, Mary Pickford, and Norma Talmadge from the Roosevelt Hotel across the street to check out progress on the theater's construction when Miss Talmadge accidentally stepped into a slab of wet cement. Well, Grauman, never one to miss an opportunity for publicity, seized the moment, getting Talmadge, Fairbanks, and Pickford to make their imprints and sign their names in the wet concrete. And so a tradition was born. Through the years, some 200 stars have made their imprints in the courtyard, along with a few interesting variations, such as John Wayne's fists and Harold Lloyd's glasses. And more recently, Jackie Chan's bare feet and Mel Brooks's 6-finger handprint. Handprints of movie legends go from Humphrey Bogart, Marilyn Monroe, and Betty Davis, Clint Eastwood, George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and Jennifer Aniston. How well do your hands and feet size up with those of your favorite star?
Oh, hello, Mr. Grauman.
You were marvelous tonight. Never more glamorous.
Thank you.
One of the greatest performances I've ever seen at the Chinese Theatre.
Thank you, sir.
You know, I've reserved a slab of concrete. May I have your footprints?
Certainly she'll do that.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Grauman.
wonderful. And remember, when you take your feet out of that wet concrete, keep them on solid ground, where they have always been.
She'll do that too, Sid, and I'll send you a bill for the shoot.
Thanks a lot.
Classic film fans might like to know the cement imprints aren't the only items of interest in the forecourt. Beneath actress Greer Garson's cement block lies a time capsule containing a 35mm print of her Oscar-winning film Mrs. Miniver, as well as a copy of the original screenplay for the picture. It still lies there today, undisturbed, since 1942. Movies weren't the only form of entertainment offered at the Chinese. Sid Grauman was famous for his lavish prologues. Those were live staged productions performed before a film. The prologues were always designed with a theme relating to the picture. Many Hollywood hopefuls got their starts as performers in the prologues, including a young Myrna Loy, who would later find fame as William Powell's wisecracking wife in the popular Thin Man movies. Over the years, the Chinese has played host to numerous gala premieres of some of Hollywood's biggest films. Howard Hughes hosted the opening of his World War I epic Hell's Angels here in 1930. King Kong first climbed the Empire State Building at the Chinese in 1933. Judy Garland made her first journey down the Yellow Brick Road when The Wizard of Oz had its Hollywood premiere in 1939. And Star Wars ran for more than a year here, starting in 1977. Recent films that have made their premiere at the Chinese include Gravity, Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, and Godzilla. The Chinese theater itself has made numerous appearances in films, including the original 1937 A Star is Born, Singin' in the Rain, The Legend of Lila Claire, starring recent handprint participant Kim Novak, plus Forrest Gump with Tom Hanks, Iron Man 3 with Robert Downey Jr., and perhaps the most infamous, Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles.
How did he do such fantastic stunts with such little feet?
As technical advances in filmmaking were introduced, the Chinese has always been ready to meet the challenge. The first sound film to play here was White Shadows in the South Seas in 1928. In the 1950s, the Chinese offered its patrons the full spectrum of 6-track magnetic stereophonic sound. In the 1980s, Dolby Digital and THX systems were installed. This was the first theater in the world to be THX certified. As screen formats widened over the years, so has the screen at the Chinese. From grandeur in the early 1930s, to CinemaScope in the 50s, to Panavision in the 60s, right up to the theater's recent excavation over 30 feet into the earth to create the largest IMAX theater in the world. There has never been a better place to see a movie than right here. Motion pictures have certainly changed dramatically since the Chinese opened its doors in 1927, and today the theater is more than ready to meet any new challenge. The new Chinese is ready to embrace modern movies with a gigantic new IMAX screen, state-of-the-art digital projection and sound, beautifully restored interiors and lighting. All of that ensures the TCL Chinese Theatre's position as the premier Hollywood movie palace and guarantees it will continue to thrill visitors for years to come. For TCL Chinese and Turner Classic Movies, I'm Ben Mankiewicz, and I hope you've enjoyed the tour.
Okay, just come right up this way here. Most recent premiere before the shutdown of last year was The Invisible Man. And also they had Bad Boys for Life, Gemini Man, Joker, and Jumanji: The Next Level. The most recent handprints done were, the most recent one was a week and a half ago. That was a boxer named Canelo Alvarez. And the other recent ones they've done were Patrick Stewart, Keanu Reeves, Kevin Hart, and Billy Crystal. They're all chosen to go out there by the owners of the theater, based on their merits in the film industry, or the fact they've broken a box office record. There's room for 75 up to 100 more out there. They're trying to make them smaller now to fit more in. They have limited room now. Once they run out of room outside, they'll put them on the walls or indoors somewhere here. And you'll see that on the sides here we have these pillars. These are hollow and marble. Marble is brought from China. And those have vents built into them. These connect down to the air conditioning system underground. So this is the first theater in the world to be air conditioned. And it's air conditioned now the same way as it was in 1927. It's the first theater in the world to be air conditioned. And you'll see also the murals on the walls there. The silver trees are painted by a man named Javier Cugat from Barcelona, Spain. And there's original, there's not been changed in 93 years, and he's also the designer of the curtain up here. And the curtain is an enlarged replica of what they had in 1927. It's been enlarged for IMAX. Do we have any questions right now? Come right up this way here. same statues above the screen. This is again by Moon Kwan, the film director, the poet, and the sculptor. And it's an actor holding the mask, very traditional kind of acting. And Moon Kwan, he sculpted several things for the theater. And this one above the screen are the only ones that remain today. I'm gonna go this way here. And we'll see out here, we're going to see the handprints of the Avengers cast. Premiere of Avengers Endgame. From here, down right over there for 1 second.
Thank you.
So gather right over there for 1 second. All the newer ones are over here. They're making these smaller now to fit more in. They do go 75 to 100 meters. The Stan Lee, that was for the premiere of Spider-Man Homecoming. Tim Burton, Ridley Scott, Jessica Chastain. Now the very first one is over here in the middle. This one's the very first one, Norma Talmadge. She walked into the wet cement right there and left a footprint. And then Douglas Fairbanks and Mary Pickford are the next two, and they were co-investors in the theater. The most famous one is over here, Marilyn Monroe. And over the eye in the Marilyn, that is her earring right there. It's tinted blonde for gentlemen prefer blondes. So the bottom half of the earring is still there, the top half has been broken off. Just feel free to look around out here and take pictures. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.